feeling good.
Now on RTÉ Radio 1, one of the iconic voices behind Westlife, Mark Feehily, shares the musical icons that inspire him.
Hello and welcome to Musical Icons, a show where I celebrate the legends who shaped the soundtrack of my life. From timeless classics to groundbreaking hits, let me take you on a musical odyssey of the artists and music that I love. So turn up the volume and join me, Mark Feehily, as I pay tribute to the music of Nina Simone, the one and only, who remains to this day one of the most influential and uncompromising artists of all time. Her training and genius as a classical pianist, Nina Simone aspired to be the first black female classical concert pianist. Although extremely gifted as a classical musician, she was actually rejected by the Curtis Institute, and Nina's dreams and aspirations were forced in a completely different direction, instead turning to the nightclubs and jazz clubs of America to earn a living. She had a habit of taking songs that already existed and reinventing them in her own incomparable style. Her background growing up in church music crossed with her classical training, and her raw, emotive voice created a sound that inspired many great artists such as Beyoncé, Lauryn Hill and Aretha Franklin. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar, I'm excited. Allow me to introduce you to the power of Nina Simone. This is Feeling Good. Feeling Good, ladies and gentlemen, by Nina Simone. Quite unbelievably, she didn't even aspire to being a professional singer, which I'll always struggle to believe. I'll explain more about that in a few minutes. Now, has anybody ever been in love with somebody who has black hair? I know I certainly have, which is why I made such a connection to this next song. Have a listen and you'll no doubt hear its Celtic roots. This is just mesmerising. Black is the colour of my true love's hair by Nina Simone. Absolutely stunning. Black is the colour of my true love's hair by Nina Simone. I remember listening to that song on a train journey from Paris to Budapest one time. Just absolutely beautiful. It was snowing outside and I couldn't think of anything better to listen to than a Nina Simone album. It's actually where I heard this next song for the very first time as well. Originally from a George Gershwin musical, and actually her first commercial hit song, so a very important song in her career. Her piano playing really is a masterclass, merging classical and blues. This is Nina Simone, I Loves You Porgy. Absolutely stunning, I Loves You Porgy by, of course, the legend that is Nina Simone. Now, a lot of things in Nina's career, it would seem, were unintentional. This next song was originally recorded as an album filler in 1957. Now, little did she know that 30 years later, a Chanel No. 5 advert in 1987 would introduce her and this song to an entirely new generation. This is Nina Simone, My Baby Just Cares For Me. Now, as you know, today I'm celebrating Nina Simone, an artist whose music and activism were completely intertwined. Leaving out her role in the civil rights movement would miss the entire point of who she was. Mississippi Goddamn is one of her clearest statements. She wrote it after a series of deeply tragic events in the South, moments that shook her and the entire country in the United States, and she answered them with a song that was brave, uncompromising and full of truth. It's more than a performance, it's Nina Simone standing up and refusing to stay quiet. I'm actually going to let Nina introduce this next song herself. Here you go. Two songs back to back there. First you heard Mississippi Goddamn and just now For Women. Both stunning examples of how Nina's music and activism were absolutely inseparable. For Women telling the story of four different black women and their struggles. Such a striking piece of music in my opinion. Now, for a completely different side of Nina Simone, after those powerful hard-hitting songs, it's time to lighten things up a little bit. I Put a Spell on You shows Nina in full dramatic flair, soulful, theatrical, captivating, reminding us that she wasn't just a groundbreaking activist, she was actually an incredible performer with a real musical style. Here she is with the bold and playful I Put a Spell on You. That was, of course, I Put a Spell on You by Nina Simone. Now, next up is this fascinating song based on an old African-American folk song dating back to the 1930s. Nina created something hypnotic, rhythmic and catchier than Taylor Swift's single. If there's any Feist fans out there amongst you, you'll definitely recognise this one from the album Broadway Blues. It's Sea Lion Woman. Thank you very much. That was Sea Lion Woman. This next song is, in my opinion, one of Nina's most uplifting and iconic songs. Her version became closely tied to the civil rights movement because it was full of hope, longing and that unmistakable Nina energy. It's a song about freedom, possibility and the courage to imagine a better world. Some of you may remember this from a 2004 Coca-Cola advert. This is I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free. Next up is a song from my personal favourite Nina Simone album, Wild is the Wind, which was released in September 1966. This is I Love Your Lovin' Ways. This next song shows a side of Nina Simone's brilliance. Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood was released in 1964 from her Broadway Blues Ballads album. And although it went on to become a hit for the Animals a year later, Nina's version, in my opinion, is the original and still the most haunting. This is Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood there by, of course, Nina Simone. Now, next up is one of Nina's sharpest and most fiery tracks. This next song was from her 1967 album, High Priestess of Soul, a title she more than lived up to. When Nina had something to say, she said it loud and clear, again influencing an abundance of powerful female artists yet to come. Here's Go to Hell. Go to Hell by Nina Simone, and I really hope you didn't have anyone in mind when you were listening to that song. Anyways, look, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. For me, sitting here on New Year's Eve listening to some of Nina Simone's finest work has been a real pleasure. I hope you have a fantastic evening. Happy New Year to you all, and a happy 2026. Please do join me tomorrow, by the way, 2 p.m, same time, same place, right here on RTÉ Radio 1, where we'll be wrapping our ears around the one, the only, the voice, Whitney Houston. Now, to finish off today's show, one of Nina Simone's most electrifying recordings, Sinnerman. Released in 1965 on the Pastel Blues album, the song itself is much older. Nina, of course, completely remodeled it and turned it into a 10-minute chase full of piano runs, hand claps and pure intensity. It's become one of her most famous tracks, sampled by many, but nothing matches the power of her original performance. Shout out to Jose on this one. This is Nina Simone with Sinnerman. Goodbye.
And that was Nina Simone, Sinnerman, ending Mark Feehily's musical icons. And as Mark said, he'll be back here tomorrow on RTÉ Radio 1 at 2 o'clock to celebrate the music of Whitney Houston. So I hope you can join him then. Now on RTÉ Radio 1, on episode 2, Westlife's Mark Feehily shares the stories and songs of the musical icons that inspire him.
Hello and welcome to Musical Icons, a show where I celebrate the legends that shaped the soundtrack of my life. From timeless classics to groundbreaking hits, I'm going to bring you today on a musical odyssey of the artists and music that I love. So turn up the volume, settle in and join me, Mark Feehily, this New Year's Day. And a Happy New Year to you all as I pay tribute to the singer who was known as The Voice because of her extraordinary vocal range and emotive power. I'm of course talking about the one, the only Whitney Houston. A woman whose influence on music and entertainment and performance remains absolutely unparalleled to this day. Kicking off today's show is a song that's actually a live performance from the Merv Griffin show all the way back on June 23rd, 1983. The song is Home, originally made famous by Miss Diana Ross from the musical film The Wiz. A 19-year-old, slightly nervous Whitney was first beamed into public consciousness during her first ever live TV performance. And I can't think of anybody better to introduce this next song than the one and only Mr. Clive Davis, who obviously discovered Whitney Houston and was there the night she sung on this live TV performance. So I'll let Clive take it away. Here we go.
Hello, Mark, and Happy New Year to all the listeners in Ireland. I am Clive Davis. Home was Whitney Houston's very first television performance, and even then, the purity and power of her voice were unmistakable. I had just signed her. Well, even then, in 1983, you could feel history shining. Mark, I want you to know it's my personal pleasure to introduce Whitney Houston singing Home.
And as Merv Griffin just said there, we won't forget that name, and nobody did forget it. Whitney Houston, a star was born. So that was Home, live on the Merv Griffin show. Next up, no stranger to this next song myself, actually, having performed it in an almost comical style on the Masked Singer show a few years back. Where I used two different voices, half robot, half rabbit. I don't know if anybody remembers Robo Bunny. Anyways, Moving swiftly on from that, Whitney's 1985 version of Saving All My Love For You was of course much classier than mine, and it earned her her first Grammy Award for Best Female Pop Vocal Performance in 1986. Here she is with that Grammy-winning vocal kicking off her career in style. Whitney's first #1 hit, it's Saving All My Love For You. No surprise whatsoever that she won a Grammy for that vocal, and once again, Whitney's star just continued to rise. Next up, Whitney released The Greatest Love of All in March 1986. Now, she wasn't the first person to record this song. It was actually originally written for a movie about Muhammad Ali's life and recorded by George Benson. Whitney's version, however, became the one that we all know. And actually, some critics denounced this song as a little bit uninspired and treacly, which is absolutely outrageous, if you ask me. Her sheer power and finesse that gave the song's message of self-worth, astounding resonance and conviction became the musical centrepiece of her album, and just once again, an absolute work of art. This is Whitney Houston, The Greatest Love of All. Oh, another wow performance and vocal by Whitney. Released in 1987, this next song was the bubbly crossover mainstream anthem and smash hit that really concreted her position as queen and ruler of popular music at the time. I know I'll personally never forget being a 7-year-old girl dancing around my bedroom to this song, singing along to this absolute banger, again winning Whitney the Grammy for Best Female Pop Vocal Performance in 1988. This is a song that we could never, ever, ever grow tired of. A song that's still played to this day on the radio all over the world. This is I Want to Dance With Somebody. That was, of course, I Want to Dance With Somebody, and Whitney Houston and the Whitney Houston machine had truly arrived at that point. This next song marked a bit of a stylistic shift for Whitney. She moved into a more contemporary R&B, New Jack Swing sound, and it actually really showcased her versatility across up-tempo, romantic ballads, gospel-inflected performances, and it just cemented her and her vocals and her place in pop R&B history. I'm Your Baby Tonight gave Whitney Houston her 8th #1 single on the US Billboard Hot 100, and the world absolutely loved it. Here it is. I'm Your Baby Tonight by the one and only Whitney Houston. Now, this next song, I'm Every Woman, Whitney's version, of course, originally sung by Chaka Khan in 1978. Whitney idolised Chaka Khan, and she wanted to record this song as a tribute. Chaka Khan actually sings backing vocals on the track. This is another dance floor filler. This is I'm Every Woman. I'm Every Woman, Whitney Houston, of course, with Chaka Khan on the backing vocals. Now, the next song is one of the Whitney songs. One of the songs that cemented her as one of the all-time iconic household names in the world. A powerhouse ballad from the Bodyguard soundtrack, which of course became the best-selling movie soundtrack of all time. Whitney had 3 huge singles from it. I Will Always Love You, of course, I'm Every Woman, which you've just heard, and this next song, which was nominated for Best Original Song at the Oscars that year, beaten by A Whole New World from Aladdin, which in fairness is a good song, but in fairness, I don't think it deserved to win. Name a more iconic vocal intro, I dare you. This is Whitney Houston with I Have Nothing. An absolutely iconic vocal intro, but also an iconic vocal outro. I think you'll all agree there. That's Whitney Houston with I Have Nothing. Now, it's not a very big secret that I am a massive Mariah Carey fan, but I have to say I'm actually just as much a Whitney Houston fan. And so you can only imagine my absolute amazement and excitement when I found out that the two of them were going to do a duet together for a song called When You Believe from the Prince of Egypt soundtrack in 1999. I actually heard this song for the first time ever in Simon Cowell's office because he had a CD on his desk and he knew that I was a big fan, and he had this song before everyone else had it. So yeah, this was an amazing song, and it did finally win an Oscar for the Best Original Song. And here is Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston with When You Believe. Name a more iconic duo, that is Whitney Houston and George Michael. Originally, actually, it's rumoured that Michael Jackson was meant to be on that song with Whitney, but I'm pretty glad that it happened the way it did. This next song was taken from Whitney's album My Love Is Your Love, and the track became a global anthem of independence and strength. Working with one of my favourite all-time producers, the same person who just produced the George Michael duet, Rodney Darkchild Jerkins. The song marked Whitney's shift into a very modern R&B style. It was quite a renaissance for Whitney and actually a bit of a comeback, commercially speaking anyway. This song won the Grammy Award for Best Female R&B Vocal Performance in 2000, proving Whitney could still evolve with the times and be a global icon. This is Whitney at her most fearless best. This is It's Not Right, But It's Okay. Oh, as if she couldn't get any better. That is Whitney Houston with It's Not Right, But It's Okay. And I'm not going to take too long to get into this next song. It's another R&B banger from Whitney Houston, released in 2009. This is $1 Million Bill on Radio 1. What a tune. A little lesser known fact about $1 Million Bill was actually written and produced by Alicia Keys. Now, in 2012, the world and the family lost the most beautiful human being, a woman who paved the way for so many and quite literally broke boundaries with her voice. I want to finish with this next song, not only because it's just as much of an anthem as the rest, but really it says so much and resonates so deeply with me and all of us Whitney Houston fans of her final studio album. And thank you for tuning in today, by the way. I'll see you next time. I'm Mark Feehily, and this song is my own personal anthem through the last few years. This is I Didn't Know My Own Strength.
Whitney Houston there, I Didn't Know My Own Strength, ending Mark Feehily's musical icons.
Now on RTÉ Radio 1, one of the iconic voices behind global pop group Westlife and a celebrated solo artist and songwriter, Mark Feehily takes us on a journey through the music that shaped his life and inspired his career.
Hello and welcome to Musical Icons, a show where I celebrate the legends who shaped the soundtrack of my life. From timeless classics to groundbreaking hits, I want to bring you on a musical odyssey of the artists and music that I love. So turn up the volume and join me, Mark Feehily, as I pay tribute to Amy Winehouse, who remains one of the most impactful singers of the 21st century. Her influence is so remarkable considering her brief stint in the spotlight. We all know her name so very well, but today I really want to talk about her as an artist, a vocalist and a person who was profoundly talented in such a raw way. Her debut album, Frank, came out in 2003 when she was just 20 years old. It went triple platinum in the UK, and for that to happen to a young female jazz singer was very unusual and also extremely exciting. Moving back in time, I was a massive fan of the TV show Later with Jools Holland back in the late 90s and early noughties. And Jools had a bit of a habit of introducing me to my next favourite artist. So I used to always watch his show waiting for somebody to come along that was going to essentially change my life as a music fan. And the first time I ever heard Amy Winehouse perform and sing was live on the Jools Holland TV show. I was back in Sligo, off tour with Westlife on a few months break, and I seen her and I was like, wow, okay, here we go. And she had an electric guitar in her hand and she was kind of plucking away at it, and the next thing she opened her mouth and sung, and it just blew my mind. She sounded like one of the best singers I've ever heard, straight up. And the song was extremely interesting in the sense that it was very, very jazz, but yet also hip-hop and very modern and very edgy and hard. So, yeah, this is Amy Winehouse live on the Jools Holland show. The first time I ever heard her. This is Stronger Than Me. And that was that. I was like, whoa, who is this? I mean, she just sounded absolutely amazing. That show, Jools Holland, had everyone from Mary J. Blige to Coldplay, you name it. And she came out there, and to stand out a mile amongst all of these globally successful and talented artists was really something. But the next song she's done on the same night, which just kind of really sealed the deal for me, was Take the Box. And we're going to hear that now. She wrote the song when she was 18 or 19 years old, and the emotional intelligence in the songwriting, because as a songwriter, she was just as talented as she was vocally. Heartbreak, self-awareness, bitterness, vulnerability, all delivered. This is Amy Winehouse, again, live on Later with Jools Holland in 2003 with Take the Box. The iconic Amy Winehouse there, live on Later with Jools Holland, singing Take the Box. And after hearing those two performances and seeing her live, I was absolutely hooked. And of course, I went in search of her album, and her debut album, Frank, was out, and I went and found it and listened to it. And I have to say, my mind was just blown once again, because the album is such an interesting mixture and hybrid of old school jazz songwriting, but also fused with modern hip-hop beats, and just something that we had never ever heard before. The next song I'm going to play for you is a song called I Heard Love Is Blind, and it just goes to show that she wasn't trying to write pop hits. The song doesn't really even have a chorus, but you can hear that jazz, hip-hop phrasing And yeah, Amy Winehouse, Frank album, I Heard Love Is Blind, here it is. Who wouldn't be sold listening to that song? And I have to say, I had my fellow bandmates in Westlife's heads wrecked when I got this album, but I was just going on and on and on about this new singer, Amy Winehouse, that I discovered. And this is, of course, long before she sort of became a household name. A bit later down the line, I had a little bit of a I told you so moment with the boys, and they all became massive fans, of course, obviously. Now, the next song is actually very Amy Winehouse, and the fact that I can't even say the title live on air is quite true to her. I think she would have liked the fact that she had a curse word in the title of one of her songs. I was lucky enough to meet her around the time of this song being released, because we both used to go to this same sort of live open mic night in London that I used to kind of go along to, and she was, like I say, coming up in the world, but she wasn't a megastar yet. So, you know, you had the pleasure of kind of talking to her, and I told her that I loved her album, and she was really, really friendly and really unassuming, and she just was all about the music and the vocals, and really didn't seem to have any interest at all in being famous or being the celebrity in the room. So this next song, written with Salim Remy, an amazing producer from the United States who really helped her form her debut sound for the album Frank, is, I can't say the title fully, but this is F Me Pumps. That is a little bit of tongue-in-cheek there from Amy Winehouse. I think she was sort of describing the type of girl she didn't want to be in that song. Just another good example of her fantastic songwriting abilities. So the next song was actually originally written by Phil Spector. And it doesn't surprise me that Amy Winehouse covered this, because she was a big Phil Spector fan, Ronettes fan, and that whole era. To Know Him Is to Love Him is absolutely one of my favourite Amy Winehouse songs. It's beautiful. It's like a warm hug and just another string to her bow. This is Amy Winehouse, To Know Him Is to Love Him. Absolutely beautiful. To Know Him Is to Love Him. Written by Phil Spector, who obviously transformed the Ronettes. And if you look at the Ronettes and listen to the Ronettes, you can see a lot of their influence on Amy, including the beehive haircut and the clear sort of vocal similarities that I certainly can hear when I listen to Amy singing. Now, to say that there was a dramatic shift and change in Amy Winehouse's life and career on her second album, Back to Black, is a bit of an understatement. She still worked with Salim Remy, but also Mark Ronson, who we all know and love as a producer, worked on this album too, and really helped her to hone a sound. Skipping forward to the second single release of this album, released on the 8th of January 2007, this next song is Amy Winehouse from the album Back to Black. And this is, you all know it very well, You Know I'm No Good. And global megastar Amy Winehouse at this point was born. Written with Mark Ronson and produced by Mark Ronson, that was You Know I'm No Good. And the next song, let's just keep it snappy here and get straight into it. This is Back to Black. Absolutely stunning. That is, of course, Amy Winehouse, the lady who today we are celebrating the life, career and music of. And Amy came to Ireland in December 2006. Who would have thought that Amy Winehouse would be down in Dingle? But she did go to Dingle, and she recorded a number of performances for the fantastic show Other Voices. The next two songs you're going to hear are her in a church in Dingle, St. James's Church, and she was showcasing her unique talent in such a broken down, raw acoustic way. You just heard a beautiful rendition of Love Is a Losing Game by Amy Winehouse, accompanied by musicians Dale Davis and Robin Bangery. It's amazing the sound that you can make with just three people like that. Second, you heard Tears Dry on Their Own, which some of you who are familiar with the studio version will be hearing something in the background that you maybe recognise, and actually that is because Ain't No Mountain High Enough is actually interpolated or used in the backing track to Amy's song Tears Dry on Their Own. Now, next up is Me and Mr. Jones. Another one of my favourite Amy songs, and not many people know this, but it's actually written about her deep admiration for the rapper Nas, whose real name is Nasir Jones, so therefore Mr. Jones, and they both share the birthday September 14th, and she even mentions the fact that they missed out a planned joint birthday celebration. That never happened. Anyways, this is Me and Mr. Jones by Amy Winehouse on Radio 1. Me and Mr. Jones there about Nas the rapper. Who would have known that? Anyways, moving swiftly on, in 2007, Mark Ronson, superstar DJ, released an album called Version, and it was an album full of different artists doing cover versions. Now, at some point, obviously, seeing as he had worked so closely with Amy Winehouse, they obviously sat down and said, right, will you do a song for this album? And they chose the song by the Zootons, Valerie. I don't think they had any clue whatsoever that this song would sort of almost overshadow all of the other previous work that they had done together and become Amy Winehouse's, probably, I'm going to say, her biggest airplay hit around the world. And to this day, it is sung in karaoke bars. And I think it's probably the most known song that she ever released. And funnily enough, it sort of plays on that whole tension between Amy Winehouse, the global megastar, and Amy Winehouse, the artist, because it certainly doesn't have the depth and feel of, say, Love is a Losing Game or Take the Box. But yeah, you know, it was a massive hit for her. So get up off your seats and jump around. This is Amy Winehouse, Valerie. Amy Winehouse, Mark Ronson produced That's Valerie, originally by the Zootons. And next, some of you may have to explain to some of your younger listeners out there who Paul Weller is. Paul Weller, basically, for those younger listeners, is a very, very, very cool rock star. And he was in a band called The Jam and also The Style Council. And he was a very, very big fan of Amy Winehouse, like a lot of very, very successful, cool, credible musicians. So Amy really did transcend a lot of genres, and she had a lot of respect within the industry. Paul was such a fan that the two ended up working together on Jools Holland's TV show. And right now I'm going to play two songs that they performed together live on Jools Holland. The first one is called Don't Go to Strangers. This song has actually gone down as a bit of a classic moment in music history. Their performance together showcased immense mutual respect, and Weller was visibly impressed on the night by Amy's vocals. So you're going to hear that first, Don't Go to Strangers, and then they do a very, very fun, cool, soulful, uplifting version of the song we all know and love, Heard It Through the Grapevine. This is Amy Winehouse and Paul Weller singing two songs together. That was Amy Winehouse singing not one but two songs with the mod father, Paul Weller, on Jools Holland. And what a duo, what an iconic band they would have made. So I just wanted to say a big thank you for sticking with me over the last few days whilst I celebrated and talked about three of my absolute favourite artists of all time, Nina Simone, Whitney Houston, and of course today, Amy Winehouse. Amy was a true force of nature, and I'm certainly thankful that I was around to see her in all her glory. And her entire career was just stunning and sad. Very, very sad. She left us far too soon. But thankfully, we have her music to remember her by. And this next song, this last song, is a song that changed everything for her. Mark Ronson produced it. And this song kind of says it all. It wraps up her career, her wonderful, wonderful and short career. Thank you for being with me on Radio 1. I'm Mark Feehily, and this is Amy Winehouse with Rehab. Take care.
Mark Feehely's Musical Icons was presented by Mark Feehily and produced by Siobhan Hock.